The White House defended his removal, with
They tried to make him some kind of martyr.
the standard being that his beliefs, statements, and associations compromise U.S. foreign policy interests.
We've got a Fox News segment over Mahmoud Khalil to cover that features one of the more despicable human beings that we've ever also covered a few times on the channel, Douglas Murray. He's in this episode spewing more Islamophobic nonsense to nobody's surprise, following the judge order that we can move forward on deporting Mahmoud Khalil for, well, simply protesting Israel. So leave us a like on this video if you can, helps us out a ton, and let's just hop right in.
Judge finding Mahmoud Khalil removable. The White House defended his removal, with the standard being that his beliefs, statements, and associations compromise U.S. foreign policy interests. Now let's break down the history. In December 22, Khalil entered the country on a student visa to pursue a master's degree at Columbia. The next year, following the October 7th attack on Israel, he became involved in activism, serving as a spokesperson for the university's Apartheid Divest group. That's the same organization that staged mass protests causing chaos on campus and students and with faculty. Fast forward to 2024. Khalil obtained his green card while completing his graduate studies. Then, last month, DHS agents arrested Khalil, moved him to a detention center in Louisiana, and sought to deport him. That's when a federal judge stepped in and blocked his deportation for that time being. That brings us to today.
I want you to really think of that. Beliefs, statements, and associations are enough to deport a lawful resident. No crime was alleged, no crime was charged, no criminal conviction was had. There wasn't even like a court trial to prove these things, right? But simply his beliefs, meaning had he not even protested, but he just believed these things, that's grounds enough for him to be deported. That his statements, so, a direct rebuke of the First Amendment and his association. So what, like being in the wrong book club can get you deported? I mean, this is a very scary precedent. This is something that, regardless of what side of the genocide debate you're on, like detach it from Israel-Palestine, this is the erosion of constitutional protections from big government, something that should scare anyone. Now, to be clear, the judge did just rule that she didn't have authority to overturn the Secretary of State's decision, not so much that they were correct in doing so, but I think this is something that easily can and might and should make its way to the Supreme Court on First Amendment grounds.
I always like to say when the issue of Mahmoud Khalil comes up, that he has become such a free speech hero for sections of the left and the right in America. But I always say, whenever they try to make him some kind of martyr, remember the name Edan Alexander. He is a 21-year-old who was born in New Jersey and is still, after 18 months, being held by the terrorist group Hamas in Gaza. If the people who had campaigned for Khalil's release or freedom had spent the last 18 months calling for the freedom of the actual kidnapped victim, the person who has actually been denied all of his rights and much more, Edan Alexander, then I'd be interested to hear these people's thoughts on Khalil. But they didn't.
Oh my God, everything is literally but Hamas with these people. If he wants to condemn what people do or don't do for innocent victims, well, what about Douglas Murray, this guy himself pushing for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, innocent women and children, days after October the 7th, going as far to say this would be a good time to do it? What about then, right? The thing is, like if you want to take the grounds that you care about innocent people that are just caught up in the crossfire or whatever, then maybe you should recant that statement and not just like when Mehdi Hassan calls you out about it, you're just tongue in cheek. But the thing is, again, you can be completely detached from Israel-Palestine and understand how frightening it is that simply protesting Israel got a lawful permanent resident deported. That also should beg some questions, mostly because a pro-Israeli hawk, Miriam Adelson, donated $100 million to Donald Trump. And I do want to be clear, because I do think there's a conspiratorial wing that when you say, oh, some questions should be begged, I'm not talking about globalism. I'm talking about people like Miriam Adelson donating $100 million to Donald Trump, specifically to control this type of policy through the likes of Marco Rubio, through the likes of Mike Waltz. But it's disgusting to see everything brought back to Hamas, even an innocent college student in America here lawfully with no ties to them having his rights overstepped. It's still about Hamas. Do you condemn Hamas?
Not just by, as in the case of Khalil and his group, intimidating Jewish students and threatening Jewish students and hounding them across their places of study, but by abusing the staff at the university, by physically harming people who worked there as janitors, by shutting down public buildings, by shutting down public highways, by many other things. What country in its sane mind would allow people in to do that?
This is just an outright lie. Khalil is not accused of doing any of the things that he just listed, but it sounds great, I guess. There's literally no evidence of him doing any of the things that he listed, but it makes him sound like he deserves deportation, so let's say it. But of course, Fox News isn't going to ask him that. The most simple or the most basic follow-up question you could when someone is alleging something. It's clear, though, as they stated here on Fox News, they admitted it, the court said, right, he's being deported for his beliefs, his statements, and his associations, which if you're comfortable with that, maybe you should move to a banana republic. It's the people who are supporting this that I don't ever want to hear comparing Democrats to the banana republics, because that's what you want it to be for everyone who doesn't like fit into the little box that you think is American, right? And for instance, by the way, there's plenty of pro-Israel protests, student protests specifically turning violent. There's instances of pro-Israeli students running into pro-Palestinian encampments and like stomping them out, attacking the protesters, right? None of these students are being targeted. None of their visas are being revoked. None of them are being systematically deported, but numerous lawful residents who are pro-Palestinian students are. So it's clear what the goal here is. It's clear who the targets are, and it's clear why it's being done. And there's not a fair standard. Any attempt to say otherwise is just gaslighting to the highest degree.